Clemson's hoping for a wide receiver commit here in the next few days. We will talk the Tigers' recruiting efforts here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all stopping by. Please hit the like button and subscribe. Head on over to Clemson Insider as well to check out Jason Priester's work. Jason, what's going on today?
Busy day, man. Kind of same old. It never slows down in the summer, man. That's supposed to be the slow part of the year, but when you kind of follow recruiting and cover recruiting, man, it never slows down anymore, especially in the summer.
I know what you mean. So that's why we got you on here. So you just found out about a announcement that's coming up here in the next couple days.
Yeah, Clemson's kind of waiting on decisions from several guys at the moment. And as, we just started a dead period last week. It lasts most of the month of July. It'll open up for a week at the end of July. And last June, the June before last, Clemson saw several commitments each summer. Coming off that big official visit weekend, been a little bit slower this year. Most of those guys have followed through and taken more visits. So Clemson's still waiting on some guys, multiple wide receivers. One of them, matter of fact, just put it out a few minutes ago that he's going to be announcing his commitment on July the 1st. Cortez Mills, 4-star kid from down there in Homestead in Florida. Clemson's been in on him for a long time. He nabbed one of those opening offers last June after a workout at camp. Took him a while to get back to campus. He was supposed to visit in the spring for the spring game, if I'm remembering that right, and ended up, I think it was a 7-on-7, so he had a scheduling conflict, couldn't come. Didn't get back to campus until June, so a year went by between visits pretty much, and he was there for that big official visit weekend, one of just two wide receivers. And coming out of that visit, there's a lot of chatter about Clemson kind of being the favorite for him. He even named him publicly. I got to talk to him on the phone for a little bit coming out of that visit, and he just raved about it. But he's took a few more since. Took one to Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago. They made a move with him. There's no denying that. The question is, did they make enough of a move to kind of surpass Clemson? He ended up taking another official. He had one scheduled to Miami for the last weekend, canceled that, rescheduled it with LSU, so he went to LSU instead. It was for a long time kind of viewed as a Clemson-Miami battle, and all of a sudden Miami's out of it, and it looks like it's a Clemson-Oklahoma battle. Now maybe LSU's gotten into it. The waters have kind of muddied a little bit here in the past couple of weeks since over these past two visits. Still got to like where Clemson stands here. He's raved about the culture in every interview he's done, and he's been asked about it, raved about it to me. He called it super unique, if I'm remembering that right. But we'll see. Again, I think Oklahoma made a move. Don't know how much of a move LSU made, so we're fixing to find out here in a couple of days, July the 1st.
Well, if nothing else, Jason, I would hope that Mr. Venables would not be taking part in any negative recruiting, that he would at least be one guy that would just keep it above board.
You would think so. He seems to be modeling what he's building there in the same, in a similar vision as to what Dabo Swinney's kind of built there at Clemson. They use a lot of the same slogans and stuff. So I would be surprised to find he was really, doing some underhanded negative type recruiting stuff. That would really surprise me. Yeah.
Jason Priester's here to break down some Clemson football for us. You can catch him on the ClemsonInsider.com. So Jason, who else do we need to keep an eye out for?
Let's talk about the other receiver that was at Clemson for the big official visit weekend. Another 4-star kid, Samori Reid. Again, him and Mills were the only two wideouts at that weekend. He's fixing to announce July the 3rd. He's even been harder to read, especially for me. I've gotten zero intel on that kid. I have no idea where he's going to end up. I know Penn State's in it. Clemson's in it. I forget the other two finalists, but I think Penn State's up there, probably pretty high for him. And then you got a third wide receiver who Clemson just offered last week. He's been committed to Ole Miss for a while, Dylan Alfred. a 4-star kid out of Alabama, committed to Ole Miss back in the spring. Came to Clemson in, earlier this month, first week in June, and worked out at camp. Got to talk to his mom a little bit while he was at camp, and it was the only camp he came to. He visited Clemson in the spring, and he knew then he wanted that offer. That visit really resonated. He kind of fell in love with the place, is what he told me, and so he came to camp in June in an effort to earn that offer. A couple weeks passed by. He decommits from Ole Miss. 30 minutes later, he announces that offer from Clemson, because Clemson doesn't offer guys who are committed publicly. So no announcement date on him, but I got to talk to him a little bit the night before last. He's already said he's coming to the All-In Cookout, which is another big recruiting event Clemson does at the end of July every year. It used to be the premier event, not so much anymore since they're doing this big official visit weekend, but he told me he will be at that. No announcement date or anything yet. Told me he wanted to have a decision by August. Also said at the same time, he could see it popping off before then, just nothing set in stone. But Clemson's looking to land 2 of those 3 guys.
We had a conversation on a show this week, and somebody suggested that these student athletes should make all their visits and then commit. And I immediately thought of you. I immediately thought of Dabo Swinney and thought, well, that's the way Dabo would have it right there. Just get them all out of the way, get it out of your system, get it out of your blood, make a commitment, an actual commitment. The last time I looked at the definition of the word, it means something a bit differently than what these guys take it for.
Yeah, it definitely means a little bit something different today. We're starting to see far more decommitments than we used to. Not that we didn't see them in the past. It just seems like we see them at a higher rate now. And, that's absolutely 100% the truth. Dabo Swinney would flat out tell these kids, if you're not sure, go take the rest of your visits. We don't want your commitment till you're sure. Because once you're locked in with them, he doesn't want you visiting around. He wants you to be as committed to him as he is to you. So he would absolutely 100%. That would be a line that would come from him, no doubt.
I ran some numbers this week, Jason. So I looked at the 2023 class, and out of those 250 players, the top 250, and considering they've only played a freshman season, the 39 of them have transferred. So that doesn't seem too high. But again, they've only played a freshman season. So that's 16% of the top 250 from last year. And then the 2022 class, it's 86 out of the 250 have transferred. So that's more in the 30% range, somewhere like that. And you got to, the number's not going to go down. If they've already transferred, that the number can't go down. So there's only going to be more transfers. So I would expect out of those 500 players, it's an even exact 125, which is exactly 25%, that's going to be more close to pushing 40 to 50% by the time these guys make it all the way through college. So I know that this is not the place to be talking transfers, because this is the one place that's immune to it to a certain extent. Now, there was one Clemson player, and I can't remember who it was, that transferred to Colorado, who was a top 250 player.
Yep, Zach Owens.
Yes, that's
the one
his name.
They call Pancake.
That comes to mind.
That is him. Yep. Only spent his freshman year at Clemson. Clemson just lost one after the spring, who had only been on campus for the spring. Defensive end Adam Kasaya. He was a 2024 kid, enrolled early, went through spring, transferring to Minnesota, who he was originally committed to before decommitting and then committing to Clemson. So sometimes they get there and realize the culture's not for them.
I would love to see at least a 1-year commitment. I am bothered by how many people I looked through the transfer portal this time around, and I don't remember seeing this before. This is like a new thing. This last recruiting cycle, or not recruiting cycle, but transfer cycle, is guys that played for a particular team one season, transferred, didn't even play for the team, transferred again before the season even starts. We had a ton of guys like that.
Yeah, once we get to wherever we're going, over the next few years, I'd like to see it where, we're going to get to some kind of revenue share model. We already know that. I'd like to see where there's, maybe some type of contractual stuff applied to some of this stuff, where we don't see so much bouncing around from one year to the next, because the NIL stuff's not going away. That's gonna remain. I just like to see some, coaches have to sign contracts. Well, the players have to sign them too. And I don't know how that would work. Maybe you'd have a buyout or something if somebody left early or something. But there needs to be something to try to limit some of the wild, wild west feeling we have now.
And that's the balance. There are pros and cons to everything. And if there's going to be the benefit of receiving pay, there's going to have to be that obligation that you commit to a year, 2 years, whatever the case might be. And that's part of the deal. That's something we all have to deal with in life as adults, that sometimes you give up some freedom for security, and you give up maybe a couple dollars potential for the security of more pay up front. There's all sorts of considerations to be made when you start to adult in this life. So they're going to have to be exposed to that as well.
Yeah. It's kind of preparing you for what you're going to see at the next level, right? I mean, you have to sign a rookie deal coming out of college when you get drafted. I mean, might as well get a head start on it, preparing for what's coming next.
Absolutely. How many times do we see a guy in the professional ranks, regardless of the sport, he outplays his contract, meaning he signs a long-term contract, he turns out to be a really good player, and he earns past what the market value is, and then he complains and wants to break his contract and renegotiate because he knows he could make more money. Well, that's the part of the deal of signing a contract, is that you gave up that potential of being able to out-earn your contract for the security of having a contract. That's just the way it is, or the way it should be. It doesn't work like that way in sports. They tend to get their way.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. But like you said, how often have we seen guys, hold out in training camp, refuse to report for mini camp or whatever, in an effort to try to, force a club's hand to renegotiate or whatever, But like you said, that's the nature of the beast. But I do think if you had some type of, contractual system in place, it would at least, slow down some of the just untethered free agency that we see right now.
That's what it is. Absolutely. Jason Priester, you can catch his work on the ClemsonInsider.com. You see it right there on the banner. Check out Jason's work on a regular basis. Jason, always appreciate you stopping by, and we'll get you back on here in the next few weeks to check in and see what's going on with more recruiting. And we're close to ACC kickoff as well.
Yeah, maybe in a couple of weeks we'll have some new commitments to talk about. We'll see. We get the ACC kickoff last week of July. We get Dabo Swinney's media day, which is a few days before that. That's kind of really the official kickoff for football for me. I'm going out of town the week of the kickoff, so I'll be missing it this year for the first time in forever. I accidentally let my wife book a cruise that week.
Hey, go have a good time. You'll get plenty of football over the next 3 or 4 months after that. So.
Oh yeah, and I am overdue a vacation.
I hear you. All right, Jason. Appreciate you being here, man.
Thanks, Mark.